Hello, everyone. Welcome to David Galata Book Dreamer. And this week, it's a very special week. I'm very, very happy. Uh, we have a very special edition here of the Book Dreamer. I have indeed finished the first draft of Nascent. So I am hoping that that book will be coming out soon this year. I'm hoping it will be this year, no matter what. But the book is ready. It's already at the proofreader. It's already being sent to my betas and my editors. So everything is all set now. And I expect this will go fairly quickly. At least that's what I've been told by them. Seem to be doing well. So, as I promised last week, that if I got Nascent done on time, which I have, that I would be filming how I make my covers. And, if this goes well, if you guys really like this, I'll keep doing this from now on. So what have I got here? I've got turpentine. Yes, I do use turpentine because I use oil paints. Oil paints. My favorite brand is Old Holland. It is the finest paint you could ask for. It really is. It's expensive, but it is really, really fabulous. And I've got all of my colors that I want today here, and we'll talk about them as I go on. This is oil coated linen stretched on a frame. I don't worry about little marks like that. It's all going to get painted over anyway. And I have it up on these little chalks here for this so I can actually reach the bottom. And the reason for that is I don't want to get these weird marks where you're trying to, get. I put up with this as best I can. And these chalks are actually chopstick holders. I mean, they're really, really good for this sort of thing. I also use chopstick holders for my brushes after I've used them. I have vine charcoal because I may have to make a few marks so I can plan things. My palette knife for mixing colors and things like that. I don't tend to use them for much else. If you're painting, always have a steady supply of rags. Always, always, always. And if you care about your clothes, well, put one on your lap. It makes a big difference. Let me tell you something. It's a huge thing. And I have these pliers so I can open these. All right, let's talk about the paints. We're going to work with the greens right now. Nascent is very green. It's a very green world. It's a very green theme. And no, I don't mean the political green. Okay, I just mean it has to do with plant life taking over the world. And it's a very strange story. It has nothing to do with anything mankind has done or anything like that. It's just something that happened. This is chromium green. As you can see, it's a beautiful color. And Old Holland paint doesn't dribble out. It's very, very heavy paint. It's got a lot of covering power, which is why I like it. I'm going to put that one aside so I don't forget that I've placed that out. The next green is I've got a sap green. Some people don't like sap green because it is a little fugitive, but this is for a book cover. It's not for something that's going to be in the Louvre. So here we've got nice sap. Look at how that pulls out. Isn't that beautiful? Just really nice dense green. And I try to keep all of my paints close by because if I need some more of one of them, I don't want to be hunting around. And by the way, welcome to the painting studio and thank you for watching. I really, really appreciate it. This is Old Holland Bright Green. Always check the label. Always, 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 always check the label. That's a beautiful green, isn't it? It's just gorgeous, gorgeous green. And right next to that, I'm going to have cadmium green deep. Yeah, I do use some of the dangerous colors, cadmiums, leads, cobalt, things like that, nickel, titanium. So I don't eat or drink or smoke or anything like that in the studio. A beautiful green, eh? That really is lovely. Like I said, we're going to need a lot of green for this because the because of the premise of the book. Here we go. And you see, this is why I like these things to be live so you can see this. I'm using my palette knife to clear a blockage in a color that I rarely ever use. So sometimes it'll form a skin on the top, and you just got to dig that out. This is permanent green. It's a nice, bright, very heavy green. And that's going to be good because we're going to need that today. And the last green we're going to use is called Hooker's Green Deep. It's a transparent green. It's a wonderful, dark, foresty green. Really beautiful color. It's one of my absolute favorite colors. And it's nice for bringing in some shadowy contrasts to the painting. Now, to help with my greens, I've got a few other colors. One of them is alizarin crimson. Why red? Why would I use red? I'll tell you. If I want to make a shadow of a color, I'm not going to use black because most blacks are actually another kind of color. There are blue blacks, there are red blacks, there are purple blacks. And if you mix them with a green, it's going to look strange. It's not going to look like a shadowing or a deepening of the color, but red is the opposite of green. And so if you want to make your green a little deeper, a little darker, you want red. I like alizarin crimson. It's a transparent red, so it doesn't overpower anything. And it really will make the green a little, I'm just going to use a little bit. I just need a little bit in case I want to darken something, just a touch. That's what it's for. I'm going to put that aside. I also have cadmium yellow deep. Cadmium yellow deep is a wonderful color. I want to have a little bit of a yellow in there, just in case I want to put a little highlighting or something like that. And that will help. That will help. It'll also help brighten a green, and it will affect the color. But if you add white, all that's going to happen is you're going to get a pale green, but not a rich, brighter green. And this deep yellow is going to really help with that. Next, I want a little bit of yellow ochre. Not even sure if I'm going to use it, quite honestly. So I'm only going to take a little bit. You never know. I might use it. I might not. We will see. We will find out very shortly. And some burnt umber. You can't have enough of this. It's just one of those vital colors that you just have to have. And if we're talking plant life, we're also talking stems and bark and things like that. Oh, look, I can clean this off with a rag. Rags can be anything. You can use, old t-shirts. This is an old kitchen rag. And then I also have Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray is a dark blackish gray, and it's very good for shadowing, making deep shadows. Not sure again if we're going to use it, so I'm only going to put out a small amount. Now I'm going to show you the palette so that you get a sense of the colors. Beautiful thing about Old Holland, I'm not worried about doing this. Look at that, it's just sitting there. And that one's moving a little bit. But these are the colors I'm using today. Now, I do not expect to be finishing this painting during this session. That would be very, very unusual. And I just don't think it's going to happen because I want it to be in layers. Layers are very good. There's a lot more you can do with layers. And you want to be able to add on top. And that's why I'm using the turpentine. If I'm going to be thinning the paints down, which I will, then I want to make sure it dries quickly. Okay, you want it to dry quickly. So you want something nice and volatile like a turpentine because that will evaporate swiftly and then the paint just dries right on the surface and it's ready. It's ready, sometimes within hours, usually the next day. I'll be continuing this next week and putting in the next layer. And with that, I'm going to use my mediums. As you can see, I've got all kinds of jars and things and odd bits, other paintings. And that's all part of the studio because I do make a lot of my own mediums. I make my own Damar varnish, my own major painting medium, which I call soft glow, things like that. All right. Now, before we get started, I just want to point out what we're really looking at here. Vine charcoal is great. It dissolves in paint. That's it. If I use pencil, it could strike through the paint, even if there are multiple layers on there. Okay, graphite has this tendency of striking through. Same thing with some inks, not all of them, but some of them. The heavier charcoal might leave a mark and might make everything darker, but vine charcoal just, it disappears. So when you have a book cover, you have to keep in mind that this section here, okay, I'm just going to lightly bring a line down. I'm just going to drop a line down. This is actually going to be the cover. Yeah, that's going to be the front. Yeah, that was sloppy, wasn't it? And then I'm going to place this here. That's where the spine is. So you have the cover. I want a space here for the title. And note, I'm not going all the way up to the top because we're going to lose some of this. We're going to lose some of the bottom. We're going to lose some of the top. Okay, it's just the way it goes. Okay, so here, let's do this. We want to make sure that we don't put anything important here because that's going to be where the title is. I'm not going to put anything here because this is where the title and my name goes. And I'm going to have, by David Galato, blah, 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 all down there. And then here, I'm just going to make 2 marks. This is for the author's bio. And then a square here because that's going to be the synopsis of the book. So this is the back cover, this is the front cover, and this is the spine. And this is how you have to think when you're doing a book cover. So here we go. Yeah, I made the mistake of not doing things this way for the cover for Kuroganji's. And, that made things a little more difficult. I mean, I still like the cover. Don't get me wrong. I like the cover, but, it was a little difficult. So what I want is rippled streaks of green across here. Okay? That's what I want. And what I'm going to do is almost the opposite of what you would think I would want to do. I'm actually going to start with the lighter colors first. So we're going to actually start with that yellow. I know I want some yellow in, so now I'm taking some turpentine. I'm just putting a little bit in to loosen up the paint. Not as thin as an ink, but also not really, as heavy as it could be. Okay? I just want to get some stripes of this yellow in there just to bring a little contrast. There we go. And voila. And we clean off the paint. Put that down. Okay. I'm going to use a large brush. Nice big brush. We're going to dip it in the turpentine a little bit and kind of squeeze it out on the edge. And then dab the tip. See if we can show you here. Just dab the tip. All right, here we go. Now, what am I doing here? I'm just placing in this color. And you can see how transparent it is, but you can also see how the charcoal just wipes away. Don't worry about the drips. That's all going to get covered anyway. And I just realized I need to put in a particular shape right here, but I'm not going to do that until next week. Ooh, what could Dave mean by that? It could mean a lot of things, really. But don't want too much of the yellow up here. I actually plan on using a pale blue for the for the title font. And I want a nice pale blue, so I want more heavy greens right there. So I'm not so worried about the yellows. This area too, I'm not really that concerned with. There we go. I'm just going to do this. All right. Still have a little yellow left. You see what I mean about this not being, yeah, it's not in the way now. Yay, which is wonderful. Wonderful. I really want to also thank everyone who has bought one of my books. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, I'm doing the tops. Absolutely. That's very important. There we go. Helps with the photography too. When you're photographing something and there's a little bit of the edge showing, you don't want to have to worry about that. All right, this one is done, so we're going to put that down. I'm going to take another brush here, and this one is going to be for the greens. So again, let's put that there for the moment. We're going to use a very bright green, and I've got one right here. And it's a very stiff green, so this one's going to need more of that good old turpentine in there. And if I use the dark colors first, they would get all muddy. They would get all kinds of muddy. It would really make the rest of the painting look very, very dull and dark. And that's not quite what I want. Ooh, spilled a little turp. That's all right. We don't mind that. So we'll just take that. Remember, as Bob Ross would say, this is your world. Make it as you wish. It's your painting. Do what you want. And I do very much believe in that. Love Bob. He really was an inspiration to so many of us. I remember watching his show when I was a kid, and actually I have the whole set downstairs, and it's marvelous, absolutely marvelous. Oops, wrong. That's almost tempting. Let's see what that looks like, because I don't have any more yellows. Hmm, this might be interesting. Yeah, there we go. Good, 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 good. Yeah, I can just get that in. I want this rippled effect. Nascent is all about the world being covered in something called the moss. And the moss is truly devastating. It grows fast. It doesn't care about flame. In fact, flames just make it worse. Yeah, I'm covering up all of my guidelines. That's okay. I've got it in my head. And actually, in this case, I've got it on the video. I can always look back at the video and go, oh, okay. But I just like to map things out before I actually work with them. And the moss grows in these thick mats, really, really thick mats. There we go. Look at that. We didn't even have to clean this off. There we go. And this is called, in artist language, blocking in the colors. That's what I'm doing. I'm blocking in the colors. That's all. I'm not trying to get anything specific in here yet, except I know I need this area here. But I'm not even going to touch that right now, because that would not serve me well. Don't want to mess with that too much. It's a little early. I want the rest of this dry before I really do too much with that. There we go. And the moss starts off from the Volcano de Agua in Guatemala. And it spreads throughout the world and creates an absolute horrific emergency. And humanity is quickly subsumed. There we go. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they play well together, don't they? See what happens here. I'm not bring that in, bring that down. Blocking in the colors is very important because it gives you an idea as to what's going on where. You want to make sure that you have the canvas covered by that point, after you're done blocking things in, and you want to make sure that you've got your theme and your composition the way you need it. And yeah, I still think about things like composition and all of that when I'm working on my book covers, which is probably why people have been very favorable in their reactions to the book covers, because I do treat them a little like fine art. And why not? You know, I am an artist. This is what I this is what I do. Yeah, I want to have some branchings here. Don't want it too neat. There we go. All right. Wow, I'm not going to have to wash too many brushes. That was a good idea doing that. Okay, now we got our next green. Let's get that going. So I'm sure this looks like an absolute mess right now, but I assure you, things will come into focus probably next week. Right now, I'm just trying to get the colors in and doing this one step at a time. And there it really is the difference between oils and acrylic. It's just I really don't like working with acrylic, and uh, I don't like working with petrol-based paints, and acrylic is all petroleum-based. I prefer using good old-fashioned linseed oil, which is flaxseed, by the way. In case you didn't know, not everyone does. In fact, I'd say most people don't know. Most people don't really know what goes into art supplies and how they're made or anything like that, which I think is a real shame. I find it very interesting anyway. Yeah, there we go. You can see I'm kind of absorbing a lot of those yellows because I don't really need too much of that in there. I just want to have a hint of that in there just to bring some variation to the color without really, messing it up. I want this to be a mossy green. That's what I'm looking for is, like a deep moss green. And moss often has a lot of interesting variations with it. It's not just one kind of green. Really take a careful look at moss. It's not just one kind of green. It's like 4 or 5 different greens in there, all kind of mixed together. It depends on where on the plant you're looking. All right, there we go. That's a proper mess now. All right, that's a proper mess. I'm going to go to the chromium green next. Again, I'm going to add a little bit of this turpentine. There we go. Now, this video is going to be a little bit longer than my usual ones, just because, well, I'm painting, you know. But there's a main character in the book named Troy, 16-year-old. No, the book is not a young adult book. I really don't want to be part of that genre. But it does have a bit of a coming of age kind of theme to it. And he is a bug hunter for his shelter. And he's an apprentice under a woman named Helena. And Helena's very fond of him. His parents were killed by marauders when he was a child. And she took him in and helped to raise him in the shelter. And they have a very interesting relationship, those two. It's complicated, which is good because I want this to be complicated. Note that I'm making sure that even though there was some yellow in here, that it's mixed in. I do not want this area where the title is going to be too bright or too dark because that will mess up the font. Found that out with a previous book cover that I did. As a fine artist, you don't really think about fonts. You're not really worried about, putting letters on it unless it's part of, your style. And so as a result, you forget about such things. And that's what I did. I forgot. Like, right, this is a book cover. It's a book cover. It's not for a gallery. And oh yeah. I struggled. I struggled because I used too many colors and it just swallowed the font, just swallowed the colors I was trying to use there. There we go. A little more yellow here. And if I want to, once this is dry, I can add yellow to that. That's really easy. But right now, there's just enough for me to, see that I used the yellow and I can still identify the yellow that I used as being the cadmium yellow deep. That certainly doesn't look like cadmium yellow light or cadmium yellow lemon. I can't believe how many yellows there are. Although not as many as greens. Wow, there's a lot of different greens. Okay, this is looking streaky, which is good. I want that. I want it to look kind of streaky because I'm going to be adding moss textures to this in the next round of painting. So that means I've got to make room. And, I can keep things kind of streaky looking and funny looking because I'm going to be covering some of this. Yeah, and I'm keeping this eye-shaped thing open right here. And there's a reason for that, but I won't tell you that yet. So they hunt bugs that have grown to like really large sizes. They hunt reptiles, and whatever else is out there. Things seem to have evolved very fast over 300 years, and human civilization has almost completely collapsed. All right, so now we're getting into the darker greens here, which is always a wonderful thing. There we go. Clean that off. And let's get into this green here. So they find out that there's something going on in Guatemala again. And they hear it on the comms from another shelter. And that shelter proposes that they get the best hunters from every shelter that's left alive together. And they want them to meet up at the Dome in Houston. And they are going to march to Guatemala, yeah, on foot, in a truly dystopian and very dangerous, deadly landscape. Note I'm letting my arm really have fun with the flow of this. I want this to flow. There we go. That's what I always tell my apprentices and my students is let this stuff flow. Let the strokes flow. You want nice, bold brush strokes. You don't want mincing little brush strokes. It doesn't work. Doing it, no, it's not going to get you anywhere to trouble. There we go. Now I'm picking some of the darker areas to place some of this darker material in. There we go. There. All right. Yeah, nice and streaky. Good. Good. Some of that yellow is still there. There we go. All right. Next color. Look at that. We're really moving along. So again, we have our turpentine. This is the Hooker's Green. And we're just going to add turpentine so that it dries faster because it's a fairly loose paint. It's a it, it's an ink pigment, so it tends to be a little on the loose side. It doesn't have a lot of body to it, so you know not all of those dry fast. By the way, for example, dioxine purple that'll take years to dry, so I tend not to use it. Uh, there was one time I made the mistake of adding some linseed oil to that color, and 5 years later, the painting still wasn't dry. And yeah, that stuff takes forever to dry. But this will be dry by next week. Easy. Shouldn't be any problems about that at all. Okay, I'm going to think about this for a second. So here they are having to walk all the way out. There, that's what I want to come down. I want this to come down. Yeah, there we go. There. All the way to Guatemala, risking their lives to find out what's going on. And they don't know what they're going to encounter. None of them have been there before. Humanity is pretty much gone in that entire region. So it really is a very dangerous adventure that they're talking about. And our young man, whose name is Troy, ends up volunteering for this, along with Helena, his trainer. And they leave their little shelter behind. There we go. And they head out into the unknown. And that's where the story starts. That's where it all begins. That's where it all begins to happen. And they have to deal with all kinds of incredible and bizarre things. There's a lot of human error. There's a lot of you know strife amongst the people who are going on this march. Sometimes for good reasons, sometimes not so much. Humanity. And they are there to find out what's happening in Guatemala now. It's bad enough the moss came from there, but that's why they're so concerned, is that, the moss came from Guatemala. What's next? This is terrible. So that's what they're doing. There we go. So now, as you can see, that yellow is barely there, but where it does show up, it brings some interest. Okay, you have dark shapes now coming in. See, if I'd started with the dark, the whole thing would be dark, and this yellow would have simply just become green. So we did the right thing. We did it in the right order. Later on, we may reverse that order, but for now, this is what you got to do. Okay, I am going to switch to a different brush. If only because I kind of want to mark off this area and I want to expand it a little bit. So I'm actually going to use the Payne's Gray. And it already got some turpentine on it. I just want to make this dark area. And I want to raise it up. It's almost like a cave mouth too. And I want to raise it up. And I want to bring it down as well. Now here I want to be very careful about getting all of the canvas covered. I want to make sure my shapes are good. I want to make sure this is right out there. There we go. There. So now I know that this whole dark patch here is separate from everything else. Doesn't matter what else is going on. I now have this marked off. Perfect. That's what I want. I want this marked off. All right. Oh, I hope this works. I'm also going to add some browns. I want to get some browns in here. I want to get some nice streaks in here of brown. Pull this up and over. Okay, want it to flow with the rest of the colors. Look at that, huh? Yeah, that's going to be nice. That's going to work beautifully. Bring that into that. There. So the book is 250 pages. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's not too small. It's not dinky, but at the same time, it's not imposing. And this is my first standalone science fiction, which is the whole reason I did it, because I have standalone fantasy. So if someone likes fantasy, novels and they want to try out my work, they've got a couple of things to choose from. But unfortunately for the science fiction fans, and I don't know why I did this, the only choice was to go with a trilogy that is huge and quite honestly a little daunting. And I can understand why people get daunted by a 600-page book that's book one. Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. Though quite a few people have tried it out and have fallen in love with it. And thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, you have all been very kind to me, which I really, really appreciate. I really do. I just want to get some of these little brown streaks in here. Just kind of, again, build up some layers, build up some interest, make things so that the eye is really kind of captured and it's drawn to here. All of this is folding to here. I want everything to go right to here. Even if this little bit gets cut off, as long as this is there, I'll be very happy. In fact, I might even take some of this brown. See, I can do this. This is the beauty of this. Because if I want to expand something, I can. I'm going to finish off by placing yet another layer of colors on all of this. So I don't really have to worry about that. There we go. That's nice. There we go. There. There. Oh, that looks pretty. That looks very nice. Okay. So this is what gives me something to work with. When I come back here next week, and throughout the week, I'll be coming in here and looking at it, and going, I could use a little of this or that. I'm an artist. We do that kind of thing. Um, and this way, I can really begin to develop where this is going and why. I want that up. I want everything to be streaking towards the point of interest. I want that point of interest to just kind of come forward. So Nascent is my standalone science fiction for people who want to try out my books but don't want to start a big trilogy. If I had been smart, I would have done that one first and then Crew of Ganges. But you know what? Quite honestly, I was in a hurry to get Crew of Ganges out of my head because, wow, it was stuck there. It really was. I couldn't even sleep. It was trapped in my brain. So yeah, I understand why I did what I did, but I still very much disagree with, my method. I wasn't thinking like an author. I was thinking like someone who had this great idea for a story and didn't really know what they were doing in terms of marketing their own work because I didn't know I was going to continue making books. I really wasn't. At the time, I was a full-time artist. This is what I was doing was painting. That's what I was doing. Wasn't doing books or anything like that. That just started 7 years ago. So I had no idea that the books were actually going to take off the way they have. And I'm very grateful for that. Don't get me wrong. But it was a surprise. All right, let's take some of this alizarin crimson. I kind of want to deepen this. Note how it does not look red. Hey, that red mixes with the green and makes it darker, makes it deeper, gives it a little more depth, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. In fact, so much so, since there's a lot of green in here, I'm actually going to put a little of the alizarin crimson in here. Again, just to give like another layer of a transparent color. And because of the browns and the Payne's gray, it'll help it to stand out a little better. Oil paint in layers is always a good idea because it is a very transparent medium. And you want your brush strokes to very much match what it is you're painting. There we go. Yeah, like that. All right, so let's see if we need any more. Yeah, a little bit in here. I'm going to bring some more of that crimson in. And note what that crimson is doing. It's mixing with the green and making it a darker green as opposed to turning it red, which is why when you want a dark red, you mix green into it, preferably Hooker's green, which we used before. And if you want something to be a darker green, you add a transparent red like alizarin crimson, because that will then make that green that much darker and give it a lot of depth. There we go. There, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that streak needed a little more. I want a little more darkness up here. There we go. That's great. All right, the only thing I really haven't used is the ochre yellow. And I'm not really sure if I'm going to, but I am going to kind of mix it in here onto my brush, just as is, and just bring some streaks here and there of this brownish color. And it also adds a touch of texture because this stuff is very, very thick. It's very dense. It's got a lot of body, unlike the alizarin crimson. It's got a tremendous amount of body, and it's quite opaque. So I have to be careful. I don't want to use too much of this. If I use too much of this, it's going to overpower what it's under. There we go. And again, we're getting that little bit of like a pale brown in here. And it's a dirty pale brown. These are all broken colors at this point because they're all mixed together on the brush, which makes it look a little more real because it's rare to find perfectly defined colors in nature. So unless you're talking crystals, things like that, or the iridescent colors of an insect's wing, then yeah, you're gonna find some beautiful pure colors, but it's not something that you encounter very often when you step outside into your backyard, or you walk down the street, looking at the pavement, and you'll see all kinds of broken, mixed, grayish, brownish colors with specks of this and bits of that all through it. So I wanted to dirty up some of these colors just a bit because they're a little too, like here, a little too pure, and I don't want it to be pure. I want it to be au naturel. I want it to really have that outdoor nature feel to it, where things are not pure colors. There we go. All right, now all my colors are in place. The blocking is done. I can see right here there's a little, not that it really matters. It doesn't matter much. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take this brush. This is a fan brush, and this is badger hair. Actually, I think it's artificial badger hair. Hamburg makes this. And what I want to do with this is I just want to blend things in the direction that they were painted. So we're going to start up here, and and what this does is it removes all the other brush strokes except for its own. So everything starts to fall into place very naturally. There we go. Yeah, get some of that. There we go. There. You just want to break that up just a little bit. There. All right, let's go into here. And it's very light. You don't want to scrub. You're just barely touching the surface of the paint. It's just enough to control all of these weird little squirrely brush strokes that you've got floating around here. And you want to bring them into some kind of order without losing too much of the initial detail. And that's the trick, ain't it? Okay, that's the real magic, as they say. Okay, so now we're going to come here, going to come down and around. And this just kind of smooths things just a touch, just enough to fool the eye into thinking this is one huge mess. Now, if I go up and down, what it will do is it'll blend all the colors into a single color. We don't want that. We don't want that. What I'm doing is I am going with the brush strokes that I've made as best I can as my chair continues to creak loudly. There we go. Now in here, I just want to make this bit of definition here. There we go. There we go. All right. So there it is. This is the beginning of the cover for Nascent. And next week, when this is all dry, we will have the second layer, which will be more detailed. We'll be able to put in some of the textures that we want. Right now, we just have the colors. These are the colors I want. We don't have the textures I want. There's a little spot here. There we go. There's just a little bump of something. What I'm going to do is I'm going to now take this brush where that was and just, you'd never know there was a problem there. Yay, always do it right then and there. Always do it when the paint is wet. Don't try to pick off some bump or something when the paint is dry. You'll have this odd spot there that everyone's going to look at. Oh, what happened there? It happens all the time. It happens all the time. Well, thank you. And for those of you who stayed with this throughout the process, thank you very, very much for watching the whole thing. And I hope you like it. I'm going to bring the camera over so that you can see the whole thing right there. Now I got a little glare from my lamps, but that's basically where we're at, and that's basically what we have to work with. So I do hope that you have a fantastic week. Happy reading, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for watching. And please give me a little thumbs up, and please do subscribe, because I really want to expand the reach of this this channel. Thank you for watching. David Galata, Book Dreamer, and I'll see you next week.